again, and welcome to this episode of my podcast, Chatting with the Lightkeeper. My name's Edward, and I'm here to discuss all things kink and DS related, at least the things that are on my mind today. So I hope wherever you're listening, you're having an amazing day, and that your week or weekend is equally as amazing. And so when I was kind of trying to toss and turn and think of what I wanted to chat about today, I had my headphones in, was listening to a little Spotify, and if you are a fan of the 80s, like I am, um, boy, I cannot remember the artist at this moment, oh, it's the Thompson Twins. Even though they weren't twins, and I don't think their last names are Thompson. I could be wrong on all that, it's going off of my memory, but the Thompson Twins had a song called King for a Day. So I kind of had the idea in my head what I would do if I was elected King of King for the day, or King of DS, or just maybe Princely. Although the Spin Doctors, to kind of keep the things musically related, do have that song where they say something about being a prince but not being princely. Uh, anyway, enough about trying to get my rusty old steel trap of a mind to think about music from um, a long time ago in a galaxy far away. The first thing that, if I became king of king, that I would just deep six right out of this whole lifestyle, if you will, is that somehow a person's race or their ethnic background or even their religion um, is somehow a thing to be sexualized or transformed into a fetish. People should be just people. I mean, I, to me, a lot of it smacks of really racism, and in a way, by accepting some of these so-called fetishes, we're, in my opinion, accepting racism in our lifestyle. Um, Over on FetLife, when I was bebopping around a little bit, um, I found a gentleman who, for lack of a better wording, and I'm sure some of you will be probably slightly offended by this, but for a somewhat city boy from the north, was a stereotypical southern redneck, in a t-shirt, sleeves ripped off, uh, beard looking like he was an extra in Duck Dynasty, and his t-shirt was, well, I guess, is it a t-shirt? Is that what they call it with the sleeves ripped off? It's not a style that I wear, so I'm really kind of unfamiliar if there's a specific term, but it was of a wonderful Confederate battle flag. And he is supposedly a master, and he is looking for a, you guessed it, black slave to serve him because he is a superior white man. And the thing is that that's not a fetish. That's not, it's not anything but just plain old bigotry, in my opinion. So I things like that just need to get deep sixed out of the lifestyle. There's just no reason for it to be there. There's no reason to say, oh, it's just a fetish. I need to accept it. It's just play. It's just for play. I'm really not like that. Um, and there's an old saying, and I forget the philosopher who says it, but you can tell more about a person by watching them play for a half an hour than you can by listening to them speak for 3 hours. And I think that looking at how some people play and the things that they play can tell us a lot about them. So I think we need to definitely just lose anything where a person's race, their ethnic background, their religion, all those things somehow are a fetish. Um, so I think that needs to go. And the other thing that drives me bonkers is how, for an open minded lifestyle, so many people who are straight get all bent out of shape when they meet, dominant Danny and a submissive subby Steve, or even, a dominant Dorothy and their submissive Sally. I mean, I don't understand how that can freak people out here in the year that we're in. Love is love, and we should accept and embrace everyone who comes to the lifestyle, even if their sexuality or their ethnicity or any of that is different than ours. We should welcome them with open arms. We shouldn't try and ostracize them, or we shouldn't be scared to talk to them. It just boggles my mind. Um, the other thing, speaking along that line, um, is I'm sure that if there are any women who are listening who have confided to someone, a man, perhaps that they're interested in a relationship with, that they are bisexual or bi-curious. I'm sure that a lot of men, in response to that, have come up with the wonderful, very, uh, I don't know what the right word is, but the response of, "Oh, can I watch?" Um, when they are, told of this person's interest in bisexuality. Um, but at the same time, if they were, say, anywhere and they met a man who is bisexual, pansexual, um, they get freaked out. Like somehow this person who identifies as bisexual is going to, I don't know, try and make the moves on the straight guy. And so what if he did? I don't understand that. I mean, it just it doesn't make any sense. It should be flattering that someone finds you attractive, even if they're not someone that you find attractive. I mean, it should be, kind of, hey, thank you. I'm glad you find me attractive, but, you know, it just there's, not for me. I don't understand why there is such a phobia of of men who are bisexual, pansexual, or even gay that are involved in this lifestyle where if a woman is any of those, all the straight guys out there are drooling for the opportunity to just watch. So that phobia of people of different sexualities would be gone. And since we're kind of talking about sex and sexuality, um, there are certain acts which people out there, for some reason, feel that are undomely. Um, and it boggles my mind. I remember chatting with a submissive at a local munch here, and she felt that if a dominant wanted to perform oral sex on her, that they were not dominant. That somehow certain sex acts or certain things that a person enjoys sexually makes them dominant, submissive, any of those things, just based on what they enjoy sexually. And it kind of once again boggles my mind because the lifestyle, yes, there's a lot of wonderful kinky, fun wonderful things that you can do that involve sex, but sex is not what determines whether someone is dominant, submissive, a switch, or any of that. So I would make sure, if I was king for a day, that we would educate the lifestyle so everyone would understand that what you enjoy when it comes to coitus is not anything related to the role and the lifestyle. They are completely disconnected from each other. So at this point, it's time for me to step back, take a little breather, enjoy a little bit of coffee, and share a message from my sponsor. And I'll join you and we'll continue our conversation here on the flip side. All right. Thank you for sticking with me here and welcome back. The next thing, if I was somehow elected king of the kinkerific world, that I would change would be to make a few changes when it comes to how the vanilla world perceives people involved in the lifestyle. Um, and it kind of centers around for me one four-letter word. And no, it's none of the four-letter words that George Carlin made famous with the seven dirty words comedy routine. But well, maybe it is. Come to think of it, it might be. It's not profane, at least to me. It's not a dirty word, but it's the word slut. So many people who are vanilla, and when they hear DS, they instantly somehow think that everyone in the lifestyle is involved in wild orgies with people hanging and swinging off chandeliers, and I think we just need to maybe desexualize or kind of tone down the sexuality a little bit of the lifestyle, perhaps, or maybe do a better job of understanding that so much of the things you see, and you see this in blog posts and writings, um, and things where something a common one is like being uh, daddy's good girl, or being a slut for daddy makes me his good girl, or um, being master slut, all these things. And it's true in a relationship. A lot of people do things that those in the vanilla world would probably be offended by, or perhaps taken aback, or just shocked for whatever reason. But I think we need to understand that being involved in this lifestyle does not um, does not mean that people are any more or less from asexual than vanilla people. I think a lot of vanilla people have fantasies and desires that they just can struggle to share or even bring to life with a partner, because there's a touch in some vanilla people of closed-mindedness. And then there are other vanilla people who are, shall we say, sluttier than the average, person in the lifestyle. But I think we just need to accept that sexuality is something that happens between people, and how they choose to get it on is their business, and stop making the assumption that just because somebody's involved in DS, that must mean that they want to be involved in, wild orgies and, you know, all those sexual things that involve multiple partners, multiple people, multiple places, all these things. And if that's something that you enjoy, that's wonderful. Um, and there are people who are vanilla who enjoy those same things. But I think if there was a way we could just take and realize that we should just not think that if somebody is involved in the lifestyle that they also do all the wild things that we can fantasize in our heads about. And I think especially new dominants need to realize that not every submissive, wants to be tied up, hung from your chandelier, and have the new dominant do X, Y, and Z to you while you're there with, the dominant's minions all gathered around to watch the show. Um, how people choose to engage and enjoy their sexuality is something we should accept and enjoy, embrace that people enjoy how they enjoy it. But I think we just need to stop with the assumption that if you're involved in DS or you're kinky, that it means that you do all sorts of wild things with different people all over the place, and that somehow it makes you less than for enjoying your sexuality however you want to enjoy it. Hopefully that makes sense a little bit. Um, And speaking of that, another thing that I would decree if I was king would be that the world would better understand those who enjoy um, kinky role play in the bedroom or the kitchen table or, the county park at 3 in the morning. Just don't get caught. Wherever you enjoy your kink, if you enjoy kinky sex, that's great. You are welcome to come join the lifestyle, be a part of it, learn and grow, all those wonderful things. But understand that there's a difference between being an actual dominant or a submissive or a switch and enjoying those roles when it comes to sex. There's much more to DS for somebody who is a dominant than just somebody who likes to take the dominant role, you know, when it comes to sexual activities. So I would change that. Another thing is, and this mostly goes out to guys, uh, there are numerous people who are involved in the lifestyle who are also exhibitionists. And for whatever reason, so many men typically, I mean, there's always exceptions to that rule, but typically it's men, look at an exhibitionist, look at their pictures, are excited, aroused by the pictures. Men are typically visual creatures. So, that makes sense. But just because somebody's an exhibitionist and loves taking pictures, loves being provocative with their pictures, sharing pictures of them enjoying the erotic pursuits that they enjoy, it doesn't mean that they want to do them with you. They just have a fetish of showing themselves off, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. If I had confidence in my body, I would love to show my body off. Unfortunately, I only feel that I look good when I'm dressed, and I look like, every average Joe when I'm dressed. So I don't think anybody wants to see me, as I am today in my ski racing t-shirt and a pair of shorts. So anyway, just because somebody is an exhibitionist, loves to show off with videos, pictures, it doesn't mean they want to do those things with you. It just means their fetish is enjoying those things and sharing that enjoyment that they have with the rest of the world. So please, folks, understand that exhibitionists doesn't mean that they want to do those things with anybody and everybody. It just means that they enjoy sharing what they enjoy with everything else. Speaking a bit about, as I said, how if I had more confidence, I could see myself possibly wanting to try exhibitionist things. The lifestyle we need to be body positive. There are so many people out there who post the selfie that shows their flaws. Everybody is flawed. Okay, Barbie is a plastic toy. The supermodels and TV and movie stars and reality stars and people who just become famous for no reason but become famous. Um, those pictures you see, there's airbrushing, there's all sorts of tricks the photographers use, lighting, everything else that hides their flaws. No one is perfect. And so often you see somebody who takes a picture of themselves that shows their true body and their flaws. There's always some idiot out there who will shame them for it, and I think we should just embrace people no matter what, and just work to be more positive in the lifestyle. Another thing that has started to really kind of gain steam, I guess, is what I see it as the corruption of poly. And for me, poly means ethically having more than one loving partner. And in this lifestyle, if you're new, you will quickly realize that there are a lot of people who are poly that come to this lifestyle or are in the lifestyle and discover that they're poly. And it is absolutely wonderful that the lifestyle accepts this. But where I see it being corrupted is so many people are kind of corrupting, and you'll hear them say, "Oh, I'm poly," and then when you talk to them further, their existing partner doesn't know they're poly, what they're doing is they're just throwing the poly label on themselves to hide the fact that they are simply cheating. Just because somebody who claims to be poly doesn't mean that they're being above board. Um, Poly is done ethically, if I can say that word. Sometimes that's a struggle, but is done with ethics. Everyone involved in the relationship understands the other relationships that their partners are in. It's not a secret. There are no secrets. It takes a heck of a lot of guts and great communication, in my opinion, to make a poly relationship work. And speaking of poly, a question I often hear from new submissives is, are all dominants in this lifestyle poly? And a quick answer to that is no. And in fact, I believe that the majority of people, this is my opinion, so everyone's entitled to their own, but in my opinion, the majority of people involved in this lifestyle are monogamous. It's just for whatever reason, um, probably because, especially if you're new, poly is different than what you've seen, and the acceptance and openness of it in this lifestyle is different than what is seen in the vanilla world. That it can seem like there is a more people who are poly than not, and I believe that the majority of people involved in this lifestyle are monogamous, but because the lifestyle is accepting of poly and those relationships, it's able to be more open. So to somebody who's not used to seeing it, it feels much more prevalent. All right, so now that I think I'm done talking about anything, sexual here. But it's a little thing that drives me bonkers, and it is done on both sides by submissives and by dominants. But we've, as a lifestyle, it's simple. If you're going to use a pet name, make sure you have the permission of the person before you use it. So often it's just sort of assumed that if by people who I I have issues with, would just assume that if they're dominant, it's okay for them to use, say, the term baby girl when addressing a submissive. And that's not okay because that submissive is not your whatever pet name. Those types of things have to be earned, and the submissive or the dominant, because submissives will do it too, you have to have the okay from the other person before you start throwing pet names at them. All right. One of the things I love about doing this podcasting thing is just the occasional things that'll interrupt you. Thankfully, due to editing software, you didn't hear the doorbell ring and the dog go off the hook, because I was able to edit that out. But I had some lovely folks stop by to find out whether I had accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I politely explained to them that Jesus and I agreed to see other people long ago, and I wished them well. And unfortunately, they wouldn't leave my porch. They, heard that I was not a follower of Jesus, and they just kept going and going until I, sadly, and I hate to be rude, ended up just, asking them to leave. They wouldn't, so close the door, off they go. Anyway, so that was the entertaining sidelight of doing this podcast. In addition to pet names, the other, if I was, as I said before, the king of kink, titles. No matter what side of the slash you're on, a title or a pet name even has to be earned. If you're a dominant, don't expect somebody to call you sir just because you say you're a dominant. Go out there and earn that from them. I mean, to me, sir is a basic title. And when I first came to this lifestyle, it was considered in the little community where I was, and it was a smallish town. Um, I guess mid-major college town, but among the adults in the community, because even though I was in college, I still kind of considered myself a kid. Um, Back then, if somebody identified as a dominant and it was a lifestyle event, You were expected to defer to them by calling them sir. And I always thought that to be absolutely bonkers because I don't know them. I don't know whether indeed they are a good person, an honorable person, or have any way done anything to earn the title. So it just drives me batty how some people expect to be called by a title, especially online when you see it from the people who take the M&Ms as titles. And by I mean M&Ms, I don't mean the delightful coated candy, but master or mistress. So many of those people who take those, and this is a huge red flag for me, demand to be called by a title. And I am so sorry, people, but as king of kink, all titles, no matter what, have to be earned. And that kind of flows into the next bit is that as a lifestyle, we would show more respectful behavior to one another. There are 1,001, probably 1,000,001, maybe even billions and ones, ways to get your kink on, to get your fetishes on, to practice the DS lifestyle, to do BDSM. However it floats your boat, there are so many different ways. There are wrong ways. I will say that there are wrong ways that can hurt, injure, and maim people. So make sure you understand the wrong ways. But when you're doing the lifestyle how you want and you're doing it safely, um, you have to understand that what works for you doesn't work for others. And it's you can respectfully, I know this sounds crazy in this day and age where if you don't agree with something, then you start calling the other person names rather than disagreeing with what they said and not taking it personally or not attacking the person who does things differently is that I would bring some respectability to this lifestyle. And what I mean by respectability is we treat each other with respect. We understand that, for example, with this podcast, I know there are people who listen to it and think, "Oh my God, no, no, that's not what works for me," and that's great. But what drives me batty, and thankfully I have a thick skin, or I wouldn't be able to, to write a blog, to do a podcast, because so many people who disagree with me, for whatever reason, think I'm attacking them as a person, and I am not. And they need to realize that just because I may do things differently doesn't mean that I'm wrong. I'm just sharing what works for me, and what works for them is fantastic as long as it's done safely. And and I'm talking, and so if I was king for a day, we would, as a lifestyle, become more respectful. The other thing that I would decree as king would be that people need to remember this lifestyle is not a magic elixir. Um, it does wonderful things when you are with the right partner or partners. Um, Even just that moment when you finally realize that the lifestyle is for you, you accept it, and you start to kind of really grow as a person in the lifestyle. They're magical moments, they're magical times, but the lifestyle's not a magic elixir. Life still happens. The vanilla world still surrounds us. We are going to have problems. We're going to have rough patches. Relationships, vanilla or lifestyle, are still going to take work. Those relationships are still going to have bumps. And in fact, probably not everyone's relationship is going to work and be forever and always. So there's going to be breakups, there's going to be heartaches, and there's also going to be some amazing times that makes all that roughness so worthwhile. But the lifestyle does not magically fix issues. It enhances lives, but it doesn't fix issues. If you're anxious, the lifestyle's not going to fix your anxiety. Having the right partner can help your anxiety, but it's not just going to fix it, for example. The other thing with relationships and the lifestyle is my decree would also include a relationship, building a relationship in the lifestyle takes more than just matching fetishes and kinks. Just because you enjoy the same types of play, the same interest, and have similar fantasies, it doesn't mean that you're going to be the next DS power couple. You still have to click on all those very challenging things that people have to click with. The same issues that our vanilla friends complain about when they're single and dating are the same things that we in the lifestyle need from partners as well. Yes, we need to have the lifestyle component, and those lifestyle components need to mesh and gel, but we also have to have all the same connections that our vanilla friends do too. And finally, um, I would put a speed limit on relationships. And what I mean by a speed limit is so many relationships seem to fall apart and fail in DS because people rush into them. They rush right in. Oh my goodness. And oftentimes we meet a new person and they're wonderful and things are idyllic and we just can't get enough of the other person. And it's very easy to jump into a commitment without really, really, truly getting invested in knowing a person. So the speed limit would be there just to slow down the lifestyle relationship so there aren't so many people just quickly jumping into commitments because, they have one or two dates and things seem to be fantastic and so they take the plunge. So just the speed limit would be there to slow things down, and if it's the ideal person, even if it takes you an hour longer to get to Relationshipville than speeding down the kinky highways at 90 miles an hour, it takes you, an extra hour to get there because you can only go 45. During that extra hour, the relationship will have time to talk, grow, build, and really discover whether it's right or not. So it would just be pumping the brakes on rushing to commitments. Anyway, those are the quick thoughts I had if I was made king for a day of the lifestyle. But since I'm not, all I can do is hop on my podcast, share my opinions, and I thank you for listening. And as always, please feel free to leave me any feedback. Um, and since I was king of kink for this day, with your feedback, please be respectful, because that is, one of the laws that I did enact during my brief tenure as king. So thank you for listening. I look forward to chatting with you again soon, and I hope everyone stays healthy, happy, and can't wait to chat with you again.